Hey, Brian from Garage Mahal. Today I have a pet electronic fence. So there's a lot to this, so let's go through it together. So when we open it up, we get the instruction manual, and it's pretty much a quick read, but I'll explain everything to you, but definitely make sure you read through the manual just to have a thorough understanding of how this works. It's pretty neat. It comes with a tripod that you can put this transmitter on, and it boasts up to 60 days it can last on a charge. I would just gauge that, obviously check on this as you leave it up and out wherever you have it, just so you can kind of have a good understanding of how that works. But pretty neat. So that's the tripod that it sits on, and you can adjust this for best transmitting outdoors, but this is great. So you can, what I do is I keep this kind of indoors when I'm ready to put my pets outside. I put the collar on them, Sadie and Sophie, you'll see them in a minute, and then I basically put this outside, and I kind of know how far it goes. So we'll take the tripod off, but that is really neat. So you get two charging cables, so you can charge the transmitter and the receiver, which is the collar, basically at the same time. The collar seems like it goes, it lasts a couple of weeks, but again, it may vary depending on how often your pet goes out of range or in range, or how often they're on the border of the range, because the transmitter is always going to be transmitting with this when it's out. So again, battery life may vary, so definitely keep an eye on it in the beginning, just so you can kind of understand from that. These are two testing pieces, so you can check the static, I guess, the static part of the collar, the electrodes on that. This is the collar itself, so just to size to your pet. So this basically kind of have to go through here, but we're gonna put the transmitter and stuff on there, but it does have a quick release, so that comes on and off pretty well. Then these are the transmitter pieces that hook up to the collar, and I'll kind of open that, and that's for the static part. These bags usually never open up pretty good, so we'll just pour the pieces in there as well. So you have the electrodes, which you can, you have two smaller ones and two longer ones to kind of give you an idea. So depending on how thick your coat is on your pet, so if you have a pet that has shorter hair, you want to use the shorter ones. Longer hair, you want to use the longer electrodes, and they simply basically just screw in here. And I would make sure that this also doubles not only as a test tool, but also to kind of ratchet these down. And I would make these on the tighter side when you are ratcheting these down with this tool. Not super tight, but you want to make sure that they are in the base pretty well. The reason being is I've had different smart collars in the past, and these tend to come out, especially if you have active dogs like I do. They do a lot of running, and for some reason they always kind of come out. So make sure that you have them on on the tight side. Okay, so programming this is fairly simple. Let me go through that first. So power on, and I think you got a pretty good view of that, but let me zoom down a little bit, so we have more of a, there we go. Okay, so that's your power on. So to change the channel, simply just hit the channel button, 1, 2, 3. When you turn this on, it will look for the transmitter and it will connect. So let's turn that on real quick so I can show you. So turn on, and that typically starts blinking blue, but it has connected already, so it's a solid blue. But if I were to change the channel, that would start blinking, and then it would look to connect. So since we turned it on to channel 1, it's basically going to be connected to channel 1. So if you have it set to channel 2, turn this on, it will connect to channel 2. Okay, so now we're connected. So this is the vibration part of the collar, so you can kind of get a general idea of seeing how that is kind of buzzing. I believe my microphone will pick that up pretty well. So you have a 1 to 9 setting on that. So depending on So I don't know if you can hear the difference, but that's a lot lighter. And let me get the test tool out so we can do the static test on it as well. I have tested the static out on this. It's definitely gets your attention, so keep that in mind. So testing it, you have the 2 wire leads at the bottom. I basically kind of like just hold it on like that. And then when you switch it over, you'll see that little neon light in there. Let me try to get the right angle and shadow on that. But we'll hit it again so you can kind of see how it kind of like glows. So you can test the static on that. I'm not going to put my finger on it for the video, but it does definitely get your attention. So on that you have different settings that you can go up on that, and I believe 9 is the highest. I did not test it on that. I tested it on myself on settings 1, 2, and 3. It does go gradually up, and like I said, it gets your attention, to say the least. Okay, then you have like the tone, and again, it seems like it defaults to 9 as the tone on that as well, but let's go to... So I don't know if you can hear that kind of like echoing. That is the tone on the collar as well. I like to leave my collar on the vibrating mode. I think that is like the best for my animals. They have had the static collars in the past, and so they know that that buzzing is typically like a warning on some of the other collars of, you know, hey, this is as far as you go. So let me get these electrodes off just so I can mount the collar easier. And like I said, you can put the rubber tips on it as well. Okay, so range. Range is an interesting thing on this device, and basically all smart collars. So it boasts 85 feet to 3,500 feet. That 3,500 feet is going to be a wide open field that is flat and not hilly. That is going to be the range for that. No high tension wires, no telephone pole wires or anything else. A wide open field. Okay, just so we know what our expectations are. I had tested the range on this, and it goes pretty far. Did I get 3,500? I would say I got pretty close in an open field demonstration. I don't have a video of that because that was like, I mean, it was a far range. I basically set this transmitter up, and then I walked out with a measuring wheel, and I mean, I was way out. So my thing is, though, that far, it's hard to see your pet. I got to be honest with you. So, like, if you're looking for something that kind of long range, it has that capability. But again, I like to keep my pets kind of like in sight. So anyway, so you have up to 18 different settings. Now, there is no magic setting 1, 100 feet, setting 2, 200 feet. It doesn't quite work that way because depending on your property, you're going to have a lot of electrical interference. Now, my studio, which is basically a large metal box, hampers the performance of the range of this or any transmitter for that matter. You just won't get like the distance if you have a big metal box like a garage in your driveway, or like in your house, for example. So my house is, as you probably can presume, is just laid out with all sorts of different electronic devices. As you can hear Alexa talking in the background. There is just a lot going on here as far as like electronics are concerned. On setting 1, I barely get any range at all at my house. I walked out with the collar maybe 20 feet, like on setting 1. So not 85 feet, but it was like about 25 feet. But again, yours may vary because if you have a wide open backyard, you will probably get that kind of range. But if you're burdened down with a lot of electronic devices, like my house is, then that will probably not be that far. However, on settings like 5, I get well over 100 feet in my backyard. No problem. That's about as far as I want my pets to wander in my yard, is about 100 feet. We have a lot of wildlife back in the forest and stuff, and I don't want them wandering too far back. Trees. Another thing, the back of my yard, which I'll show you, is just, I mean, I live on the edge of a protected forest. So once you step about 25 to 50 feet into the forest, the signal on this diminishes significantly just because there's a bunch of trees in the way. So a lot of these things just keep in mind. So again, you can go up to 18. So at 18, I can go pretty far into the forest to the point where I am able to turn around. I can't see my house clearly because there's all sorts of trees in the way. However, the signal on the receiver, the collar, is not that great because there's trees in the way. So the more trees you have, it's going to greatly affect the distance of the transmitter overall. But this thing is absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love it. I love the fact that I can bring this to like a family party, set this up on the porch, and I don't have to worry about my pets getting too far away from the family. I usually set it at the lower settings, 3, 4, 5. So I'm keeping my pets within 75 to 100 feet of this transmitter of the house, wherever we're staying at, having a party at, wherever. And it does a significantly great job at that. But again, there is a training process involved. Put it on setting 1 for distance, and then you basically walk out like like as far, holding the collar as far away from the transmitter, and then see when this starts vibrating or beeping, whatever you have it set to, and then you can adjust it. Then you put it on 2, walk a little bit further, 3, a little bit further, etc. So if you hit M, that is basically going to set up the first range, and then you can set your settings. Oh, let me get a frame. So if you hit the M button here, that is going to set up your range. So like I have button 5. Let me kind of get out of some of the reflections here. So I usually set it on 5. You can go 6, 7, 8, all the way up to 18. Let me do that real quick. So 18 is the max range. Again, it says it is 85 feet to 3,500 feet on a clear, sunny day in a wide open field. And again, back, setting this all the way back down to 1. But like I said, I usually keep it on about 5. That's about as far as I want my dogs to wander out into the yard. But that's how you set up the range. And then when you're done, you basically just hit M, and then it's basically locked in. And we go from there. So again, pretty simple to set up. You put it onto the tripod, which is pretty awesome. And obviously, the higher this is in sight, let me set this up here. It's got that little foot thing on the bottom so you can tighten it. Let me just spin that around. So it has, obviously, I have a deck, so it's a little bit raised. I don't want to say you want to like raise it crazy height in the air, but if you have this, 10, 12 feet off the ground, like how high a deck is, some decks, that will give you a better, clearer range as well, because it'll kind of like blanket that area and the electronic fence. Now, my deck has a corner that goes around the house. My pets like to go over there, and again, this range is significantly reduced when they go around a corner. So it's not exactly a circle. It is probably a circle to as well as you can have it go on, around the corner of a building. Because the signal, of course, has to go through the building to get like the best range. So if I have 100 feet in my backyard, if my pets go off to the side, that gets reduced to probably about 40 or 50 feet at most. So just to kind of give you an idea, there is a little bit of human training involved as well as dog training. Now, how I've trained my dogs to respond to this is basically I put their collar on, I kind of know what the perimeter was at 5, and I would walk my dogs out, and as soon as it started beeping, I would basically kind of like pull back on their leash so they know that's as far as they can go. And then you basically kind of like walk the perimeter of the property, but make sure you obviously hold the collar in your hand, have it on vibrating mode or the tone mode, and then you can like walk the perimeter of property and kind of know exactly the ins and outs of where that pet can go. And again, while you're training them, set it to audio so they know, then train them again in vibrating so they know that is the exact same signal. I apologize if this video is a little bit longer, but there is a lot to training a dog to use one of these collars. My dogs are kind of like experts now because they've always had some sort of electronic collar on, so they are aware of the tones, the vibration, as well as the static shock. Fortunately, my dogs have not had the static shock on this collar or any other collars because they're pretty smart. They train really well. I've had one dog that I basically put like a vibrating collar on right away, and it was super easy to train him. His name was Jake. He's no longer with us. However, super easy to train on the electronic collars. This one I found to be significantly easy to train my pets on. Your pet's performance may vary. I'm not familiar with your pet, obviously, but some dogs train quick. Some dogs are a little bit less to train on them. So you may have to use the static in the beginning so they really get the idea of like, hey, I shouldn't be going beyond this limit. So they learn rather quickly that way. Then you back them off and you put them on to like the tone and or the the vibrating feature on this. This is great. I absolutely love it. It was a dream working with my dogs on this. Sadie and Sophie, they really got familiar with how far they could go. And the funny thing is, if one of them is wearing a collar and they hear the other collar, the other dog hears the collar vibrate or hears the tone, they back off too. So they don't necessarily have to be wearing a collar. They have to be in that same general area as my other dog. So it was kind of interesting, unique perspective to watch them kind of like learn from each other on this. But anyway, let's go out. I'll show you what it looks like on Sophie, and I can give you a general idea of how to set up the range and show you how far we can go and go from there. And again, results may vary depending on your yard, the electronics, the obstacles, the buildings that you have, and we go from there. Anyway, stay tuned. Okay, so that's Sadie, or Golden, and then that's Sophie. And then so again, I have this set up here, and it's going to be kind of difficult to see because it is a bright sunny day, but you can kind of see that set on 1. So I have it on like the whole vibrating thing. She's checking out what we're doing. So basically I'm going to walk out with this collar, and we're going to walk out on setting 1, and that's Aiden over there. He's doing some construction. So Sadie wants to wear this collar. She loves her accessories. So, but let's just walk out here, and then right about here is typically where that beeps. So kind of give you an idea about how far from the property. Maybe that's not 25 feet, so that's probably a little bit longer. So, but that's on 1, so I don't know, 40 feet, 50 feet, somewhere like that. And then we'll set this up on Sophie. So let's walk back. Actually, that's Sophie. And we're gonna set it up on Sadie. Like I said, she loves her little accessories. Okay, you ready? Okay. Okay, Sadie girl, sit. Okay, good girl. And then you size the collar. So you want about 2 fingers worth there. And you can cut this excess off if you needed. And she loves her accessories. They both love their accessories. But yeah, so anyway, that's pretty well set. Brian from Garage Hall with Sadie and Sophie. Be safe out there. Right, girls?